The Sinaloa Cartel had forged their empire across the Mexican border into Texas hill country, building a ruthless reputation that stretched from Monterrey to San Antonio. They'd carved their dominion through bloodshed and terror, leaving broken families and corrupted officials in their wake. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. But on a scorching summer evening in the heart of Texas, they made a fatal miscalculation that would echo through criminal legend. They kidnapped Sarah Hawkins. They saw what they wanted to see: a 48-year-old rancher's wife, a simple target to pressure her husband into selling their strategic piece of land. What they couldn't see was the shadow lurking behind her gentle smile, the same shadow that had haunted cartel nightmares for 2 decades as the most lethal gunslinger the DEA had ever commissioned. The woman who'd single-handedly dismantled 3 cartels without ever drawing first. The legend they called La Sombra, because if you saw her coming, you were already dead. Now, zip-tied to a chair in their compound, surrounded by the region's most dangerous cartel soldiers, Sarah Hawkins is exactly where she wants to be. Because sometimes justice requires patience, sometimes it takes a shadow to dismantle an empire, and the Sinaloa Cartel is about to learn why, even 15 years later, hardened sicarios still whisper her name in fear. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Double H Ranch as Sarah Hawkins completed her daily fence check. Her boots left precise tracks in the dusty earth, each step measured and deliberate. To anyone watching, she appeared to be just another rancher's wife starting her day, but Sarah never stopped watching back. She caught the glint of tinted windows through the mesquite trees. The 3rd time this week she'd spotted the same black SUV making a slow pass along their property line. Different vehicles, same cartel markings. Inside the ranch house, Thomas Hawkins sat at the kitchen table, his weathered hands wrapped around a coffee mug as he scrolled through local news on his tablet. "They're getting bolder," he said as Sarah entered, not looking up from the screen. "4th patrol this morning. Same pattern as yesterday." Sarah poured herself coffee, her movements calm and precise. "Plus a new vehicle, black Escalade. Driver favors his right side. Ex-military, probably Mexican special forces based on his positioning." Thomas looked up, his eyes meeting hers. 12 years of marriage had taught him to read between her words. "They're not just watching anymore, are they?" Sarah sat across from him, allowing herself a small smile that never reached her eyes. "No. They're establishing patterns, testing response times, Sheriff Martinez's patrols, delivery schedules, our daily routines." She took a measured sip of coffee. "They'll make their move soon." "We could sell," Thomas suggested, though his tone said he already knew her answer. "Their offer is well above market value." "It's not about the ranch." Sarah's voice carried an edge she rarely allowed herself. "The Sinaloa Cartel has bought or pressured their way into controlling every property along the old smuggling routes. This is the last parcel they need." "For what?" "That's what I intend to find out." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of vehicles on the main road, not passing by this time, but turning onto their long gravel driveway. Sarah moved to the window, her stance casual, but her mind calculating distances, angles, potential. Cover. 3 black SUVs approached, led by an armored Mercedes G-Wagon. Sarah recognized the vehicle from DEA bulletins. Javier Ortiz, regional commander for the Sinaloa Cartel. Former Mexican military intelligence, suspected of orchestrating a dozen mass killings, but never convicted. He'd transformed a local smuggling operation into a sophisticated criminal enterprise spanning both sides of the border. "Stay inside," Sarah told Thomas, her voice carrying the same quiet authority that had once commanded DEA tactical teams. "Whatever happens, whatever you hear, stay inside." She stepped onto the porch just as the vehicle stopped in a practiced defensive formation, gravel crunching under their tires. Ortiz emerged from the G-Wagon with fluid grace, his expensive suit unable to completely hide his military bearing. Two sicarios, cartel soldiers, flanked him immediately, their tactical vests visible beneath designer clothes. "Mrs. Hawkins," Ortiz called out, his voice carrying the practiced charm of a businessman. "Beautiful morning for a visit." "This is private property, Mr. Ortiz." Sarah's tone was pleasant, non-confrontational. "Just another rancher's wife, uncomfortable with unexpected visitors. That's exactly what I wanted to discuss." Ortiz moved forward with controlled confidence, his men subtly spreading out to cover approaches. Amateur move, they were telegraphing their intentions to anyone trained to see it. "My organization has development plans for this region, plans that could benefit everyone." He gestured expansively, "including you and your husband." Sarah noted how his soldiers positioned themselves, trying to flank her position. Their movement patterns confirmed her suspicions. Ex-military, probably from the same unit based on their coordination. She maintained her role, letting them see what they expected, a simple rancher's wife out of her depth. "We're not interested in selling," she replied, wrapping her arms around herself in a display of discomfort. "This ranch has been in my husband's family for generations." "Things change, Mrs. Hawkins." Ortiz's charm slipped slightly, revealing something colder. "Progress comes whether we want it or not. Smart folks adapt, others—" He shrugged. "They tend to have accidents." Sarah allowed a trace of fear to show on her face, feeding their assumptions. Let them think they were dealing with a simple target. Let them underestimate her. It's what she'd been training them to do for weeks. "Are you threatening us, Mr. Ortiz?" "Threatening?" He smiled, spreading his hands in a gesture of innocence. "I'm offering you a way forward. $5 million, well above market value, because I respect what you've built here." His voice hardened slightly, "But that offer won't last forever." Sarah's trembling was perfectly calculated as she asked, I'll need to discuss this with my husband." "Of course." Ortiz's smile returned as he reached into his jacket, making one of his sicarios tense nervously. Another tell. The man wasn't used to real violence, just intimidation. Sarah filed away every detail as Ortiz produced a business card. "Take some time," he said, as she stepped forward to accept it, letting them see her slight tremor. "Think it over, but not too much time." As she took the card, Sarah was counting weapons, analyzing stances, noting how the sicarios carried themselves. Everything told her these weren't just ordinary cartel soldiers. Their quasi-military bearing, advanced equipment, and coordinated movements suggested connection to something bigger. 3 days, Mrs. Hawkins," Ortiz said as he returned to his vehicle. "Then we'll need an answer." The convoy roared away in a cloud of dust, leaving Sarah on the porch. She waited until they were out of sight before her demeanor changed. The trembling stopped, her posture shifted subtly, center of gravity lowering, weight balanced perfectly. This was the stance that had made her legendary in law enforcement circles, La Sombra preparing to hunt. Thomas emerged from the house. "Sarah?" "It's starting," she said softly. They're getting ready to move on something big, something worth killing for. She turned to her husband, letting him see the steel beneath her quiet smile, and they just invited the shadow to their party. The town of Cerro Vista hadn't changed much in the 15 years since Sarah had chosen it for her retirement. The single main street still housed the same family businesses, though now most sported security cameras and reinforced locks, silent testimony to the cartel's growing influence. Sarah parked her weathered Ford pickup outside Martinez's general store, noting 3 black SUVs clustered near the entrance. Inside, she could hear raised voices. Elena Martinez's store had been in her family since before the border was drawn. Now it was about to become another kind of lesson. 2 sicarios flanked the counter where Elena stood, her teenage daughter Maria behind her, both their faces pale but determined. The third man, wearing tactical gear beneath a designer jacket, leaned forward menacingly. "Protection fees aren't optional anymore, Elena," he growled. "Town's changing. Be a shame if something happened to your nice place or your pretty daughter." Sarah selected a basket, moving quietly through the aisles. Her presence registered. She saw the nearest sicario's hand twitch slightly toward his holster. Ex-military, that telltale gesture confirming her suspicions about their training. "I've already paid the business association," Elena's voice carried clearly. "Sheriff Reynolds says..." "Sheriff ain't in charge anymore," the tactical leader swept, a display of local honey onto the floor. "We are 10,000 a month starting today." Sarah rounded the aisle, her basket filled with normal ranch supplies. She kept her movements deliberate, unthreatening. Just another middle-aged woman, doing her shopping. "Oh my," she said mildly, stepping in sticky honey. "What a mess! Elena, do you have a mop? I'd be happy to help clean up." The sicarios turned, irritation crossing their faces. The leader started to speak, but Sarah was already moving past them, to the counter, pulling out her wallet. "Adding these to my monthly account," she said cheerfully, "and I'll need a case of that new coffee you got in, the whole bean dark roast. Thomas says it's amazing." Elena blinked, then caught on. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story." "Of course, Sarah, I'll get that from the back." "Take your time." Sarah smiled at the sicarios. "I'm sure these gentlemen were just leaving, weren't they, boys?" The tactical leader stepped closer, trying to use his bulk to intimidate. "This ain't your business, lady." "No?" Sarah's smile remained pleasant, but her eyes changed subtly. Later, the sicario would try to explain to his commanders what he saw in those eyes. Something cold, something that triggered instincts he'd learned in combat. "My husband's family helped build this town. Elena's grandfather gave him his first job, so maybe it is my business." She turned back to her shopping list, dismissing them. The insult was deliberate, calculated. The tactical leader's face reddened, his hand twitching again toward his weapon. "You should be careful, Mrs. Hawkins," he growled. "Accidents happen." "Yes, they do." Sarah didn't look up from her list. "Like 2 weeks ago, when your weapons shipment had that nasty spill out on Dead Man's Pass. The one that wasn't reported." Now she met his eyes. "Funny thing about accidents. You never know who might have seen something." The sicarios exchanged glances. That accident hadn't been reported because it happened during a classified operation. No one was supposed to know about it. "We'll finish this later," the tactical leader told Elena, trying to salvage some authority, but his voice had lost its edge. After they left, Elena sagged against the counter. "Gracias, Sarah, but you shouldn't have. They're dangerous." "Yes, they are." Sarah began cleaning up the honey. "And they're getting more organized. That's what worries me." Elena got the mop. "Sheriff Reynolds says they're just passing through, part of some big development deal." "Is that what he says?" Sarah's voice was carefully neutral. "Interesting, because that's not what his deputy told Carlos Jimenez when they tried to pressure him into selling last month." She worked in silence for a moment, letting Eleanor process the implications. The store owner was smart. She'd see the pattern. "And they're buying up all the land along Dead Man's Pass," Elena said slowly. "Or forcing people to sell. But why? It's just old ranch country." "Maybe," Sarah finished mopping, "but it's also the most direct route between two cartel territories, with lots of empty land and no cellular coverage in some spots. Perfect for moving things that need to stay hidden." Elena's eyes widened. "You think they—" "I think," Sarah interrupted gently, "that you should take Maria to visit your sister in San Antonio, just for a week or two." "I can't. The store—" Sarah's voice was soft, but carried absolute authority. "Please, things are about to change in Cerro Vista. When they do, it's better if certain people aren't around to see it." Outside, Sarah loaded her supplies into the truck. Her phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. "Sheriff Reynolds stopped by after you left, asking questions about our plans for the ranch." Sarah smiled. The pieces were moving exactly as she'd predicted. The cartel was getting nervous, pushing harder, which meant they had a deadline. Something big was coming. She drove to the outskirts of town, pulling onto a dusty overlook. From here, she could see Dead Man's Pass stretching toward the horizon, the ancient smuggling route that had served outlaws since before Texas was a state. 15 years ago, she'd been investigating a cartel weapons operation that used rural medical transport companies as cover. The case had led to Texas before her superiors suddenly shut it down. Now the Sinaloa Cartel was buying up land along the same route. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The text was brief. "They're watching you, getting nervous like old times. R." Sarah deleted the message. Agent Rodriguez, her old DEA partner, was still monitoring things. Good. She'd need backup when the time came. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the canyon as Sarah headed home. In her rearview mirror, she caught glimpses of a black SUV following at a discreet distance. Amateur surveillance. They were watching her while she watched them. Perfect. Everything was falling into place. La Sombra was about to come out of retirement, and the Sinaloa Cartel was about to learn why weapons traffickers still woke up screaming at the memory of her name. But first, she had to give them exactly what they wanted. One seemingly vulnerable rancher's wife, ready to be used as leverage against her husband. The perfect target. The perfect trap. Sarah smiled as she drove. Some predators, after all, hunt best from inside the den. Dr. Isabella Ramirez's clinic sat on the edge of Cerro Vista, a modern medical facility built with old ranch money. As Sarah pulled into the parking lot, she noted 3 new security cameras, high-end models with infrared capability, not the kind of equipment a small-town doctor normally installed. She found Isabella in her office, reviewing patient files on her laptop. The circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights. "Mrs. Hawkins," she said, closing the laptop quickly, "your physical isn't until next week." "The cameras are new," Sarah observed, settling into a chair. "Expecting trouble?" Isabella glanced at her office door before speaking softly. 3 cartel soldiers came in last night. Gunshot wounds, said it was a hunting accident. She ran a hand through her graying hair. "Thing is, the wounds were from military-grade weapons, not hunting rifles." Sarah kept her expression neutral. "Hunting accident. That's what Sheriff Reynolds' report says. But I saw the damage, Sarah. These were professional hits, through and through wounds calculated to disable without killing. Before Sarah could respond, raised voices erupted from the waiting room. Two of Ortiz's sicarios burst in, the same ones from Martinez's store. The larger one jabbed a finger at Isabella. "Those files you were looking at, hand them over, now!" Sarah remained seated, seemingly forgotten in the corner. She watched Isabella stand, noting how her hand moved toward her desk drawer. Former combat medic, she'd have a weapon within reach. "Patient files are confidential," Isabella said firmly. "You know that." The second sicario drew a pistol. Amateur move, threatening instead of acting. Sarah catalogued his weaknesses automatically. Weight too far forward, grip too tight, eyes focusing on his target instead of scanning for other threats. "Confidential doesn't apply anymore, Doc," he sneered. "Boss wants those files. And what exactly does your boss want with private medical records?" Sarah's voice cut through the tension. She hadn't moved from her chair, but something in her tone made both sicarios turn. "Stay out of this, Mrs. Hawkins," the armed one warned. "This ain't your business." "No," Sarah smiled slightly. "Tell me, did Ortiz send you for all of Dr. Ramirez's files, or just the ones about last night's hunting accident?" The sicarios exchanged glances. The larger one stepped toward her. "You need to leave, now." "Actually," Sarah rose smoothly, her movement making both men instinctively step back, "I think you need to deliver a message to Ortiz. Tell him, if he wants to clean up his messes, he should teach his men better weapons discipline." 3 wounded by friendly fire. That's sloppy." The armed sicario raised his pistol. "How did you—" "The same way I know about the shipment coming in tonight." Sarah's voice turned cold. "The same way I know why you're really buying up land along Dead Man's Pass. The same way I know about the deal with the corrupt border agents." Both men went pale. That information was compartmentalized. Nobody outside Ortiz's inner circle should know about it. "Who are you?" the larger one demanded. "Just a rancher's wife." Sarah moved toward the door, her stride casual, but her path taking her inside their reaction zones. "For now. But you tell Ortiz something's changed in his operation. Someone's watching, someone who knows how to look." She paused at the door. "Oh, and boys, next time you pull a gun in a doctor's office." She nodded toward Isabella's desk. "Check if the target is the only one armed." After she left, the sicarios found Isabella calmly holding a compact .45 under her desk. They left without the files. Sarah drove home along Dead Man's Pass, her mind processing the encounter. The sicarios' reaction confirmed her suspicions. The Sinaloa Cartel was running professional weapons shipments, using the medical clinic to treat any accidents that occurred. But the operation was bigger than just guns. The land purchases, the border agent connections, the military-grade weapons, it all pointed to something larger. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Agent Rodriguez. "Satellite shows increased activity at abandoned Diaz Ranch. Matches pattern from Juarez case." Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The Juarez case, her last official operation, before being forced into retirement. An international weapons ring using cartel territory as cover. The investigation had led to Texas before someone high up shut it down. Now the same patterns were emerging at home. She found Thomas on the porch, watching the sunset. "They followed you from town," he said quietly. 2 SUVs keeping their distance. "They're getting bolder." Sarah touched his arm gently. "You're going to let them take you, aren't you? It's the fastest way inside. Ortiz's organization is moving something big, something worth killing for. But they're sloppy, overconfident, just like in Juarez. That case almost got you killed. No, Sarah's eyes hardened. That case got shut down because we got too close to someone powerful, someone who didn't want their connection to international. Weapons trafficking exposed. Now the same operation has surfaced here. She pulled out her phone, showing Thomas the text from Rodriguez. The Diaz Ranch. Thomas studied the message. That's where they'll take you. Perfect sight lines, multiple escape routes, easy access to Dead Man's Pass. Ortiz thinks like military, uses predictable patterns. And if you're wrong... Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills down Thomas's spine. It was the smile that had made cartel soldiers confess rather than face her interrogation. I'm not wrong. By this time tomorrow, the Sinaloa Cartel will make their move. They'll use me as leverage to force you to sell the ranch. Her voice carried absolute certainty. And that's when La Sombra comes out of retirement. That's when we finish what started in Juarez. As darkness fell over the Double H ranch, Sarah Hawkins made her preparations with the same meticulous attention to detail that had once made her legendary in law enforcement circles. Hidden cameras, emergency weapons caches, pre-positioned supplies, everything La Sombra needed to hunt, because Sarah Hawkins hadn't spent the last 15 years just playing rancher's wife. She'd been waiting, planning, watching for the operation to resurface. Now the Sinaloa Cartel had given her the perfect opportunity. All she had to do was let them think they were the predators. Night settled over the ranch like a velvet shroud. Sarah sat in darkness, watching her security feeds. The cameras she'd hidden around the property showed 7 cartel soldiers taking positions in the tree line. Their movement patterns confirmed her suspicions. These weren't ordinary sicarios. They moved with military precision, using standard tactical approaches. Her phone buzzed silently. Agent Rodriguez. Facial recognition confirms 5 of Ortiz's new soldiers are ex-GAFE, Mexican Special Forces, same unit that disappeared after Juarez. Sarah smiled in the darkness. The pieces were falling into place. The same unit that had provided security for the weapons shipments she'd been investigating before being forced into retirement. Now they were here, working with the Sinaloa Cartel. Headlights swept across the ranch house as 3 black SUVs approached. Not the usual vehicles, these were armored tactical models. The real professionals had arrived. "They're here," she said softly. Thomas's voice came from the darkness behind her. "Last chance to do this differently." "No." Sarah checked her hidden transmitter one last time. They need to think they have control, need to get inside their operation. She touched his hand briefly. "Remember the signal. If I don't send it every 6 hours, I contact Rodriguez. Always." The first flashbang crashed through the front window exactly where Sarah had predicted. The tactical team breached with professional efficiency. 2-man teams, coordinated movement, synchronized timing. In another life, she would have commended their technique. Sarah let them find her in the kitchen, appearing appropriately terrified. The team leader, face hidden behind a tactical mask, zip-tied her hands with practiced ease. "Target secured," he reported into his radio. "No complications." They moved her quickly to the waiting SUV. Through her carefully crafted mask of fear, Sarah noted every detail. 8-man team, latest-gen tactical gear, military hand signals. This was no ordinary cartel operation. Ortiz waited by the vehicles, watching with satisfaction. "Mrs. Hawkins, sorry about the dramatic entrance, but we needed to make a point." "What do you want?" Victoria let her voice tremble. Same thing as before, the ranch, but now your husband has extra motivation to sell. The drive to the Diaz ranch took exactly 17 minutes. Sarah counted every turn, noted every radio call. The tactical team maintained strict communications discipline, another sign they weren't typical criminals. Inside the ranch house, the setup confirmed her analysis. Professional guard positions, modern surveillance equipment, secure communications center. This wasn't just a temporary holding site. This was an operations base. They secured her to a chair in a central office, giving her clear view of their activities. Overconfidence. They wanted her to see their strength, their professionalism, to feel helpless. Ortiz pulled up a chair. Don't worry, this won't take long. Your husband's already received our demands. Once he signs the transfer papers, you'll be free to go. Sarah maintained her frightened demeanor while observing everything. Through the office windows, she could see teams unloading crates from a newly arrived truck. Military shipping containers, serial numbers matching the pattern from Juarez. Why? She asked, letting tears fill her eyes. Why our ranch? There's nothing special about that land. Actually, there is. Ortiz leaned back, enjoying his moment of superiority. Dead Man's Pass is about to become very important. Certain business opportunities are opening up. Your ranch is the final piece we need. A commotion at the loading dock drew his attention. One of the tactical team members approached rapidly. Sir, we've got a problem. The shipment manifests don't match. Someone's been tampering with the routing codes. Ortiz's casual demeanor vanished. Show me. Sarah watched them examine documents at a nearby desk. The tactical team member pointed to something on a laptop screen. The serial numbers, they're being tracked. Someone's monitoring the shipments. Impossible. Ortiz's voice carried real concern now. Those codes are classified military eyes only. Not anymore. The team member lowered his voice, but Sarah's trained hearing caught every word. Boss, this matches what happened in Juarez. Remember when that DEA agent almost exposed the whole operation? Sarah kept her expression fearful, but inside she smiled. They'd taken her exactly where she needed to be, at the heart of their operation. Just like old times. Her phone, hidden in a concealed pocket, vibrated once. Agent Rodriguez's acknowledgement. The tracking devices she'd attached to their vehicles during the kidnapping were transmitting. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Change of plans, Ortiz ordered, his earlier confidence replaced by barely concealed worry. Contact. The buyer on secure comms. The whole shipment moves tonight. Sir, one of his men objected, the border crossing isn't secured yet. Now. Ortiz ran a hand through his hair. Something's wrong. This is too similar to Juarez. We need to finish this before... He stopped, staring at Sarah with dawning suspicion. For just a moment she let her mask slip. Let him see what was really behind her tears. Ortiz took an involuntary step back. Who are you? Sarah smiled, and for the first time that night, it reached her eyes. The same smile that had haunted cartel nightmares for 15 years. You should have checked more carefully, she said softly. Should have looked deeper into who you were dealing with. But then the weapons traffickers in Juarez made the same mistake. Ortiz's face went pale. La Sombra. He whispered, You're La Sombra. Consider this a friendly warning, Sarah continued, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had once made cartel leaders confess. Release me now. Leave Texas, and this ends here. Continue with tonight's shipment. She shrugged against her restraints. Well, you know what happened in Juarez. Ortiz's response was predictable. Secure her. Double the guard. No one goes in or out without my direct approval. He leaned close to Sarah. Shadow or not, you're not stopping this shipment. Too much money involved, too many powerful people. I know, Sarah replied calmly. That's exactly what I'm counting on. As they left her alone in the office, Sarah began counting down in her head. 4 hours until Rodriguez's team would be in position. 3 hours until the weapons buyers arrived. Just enough time for a shadow to prepare for hunting. The Diaz ranch hummed with tense activity as Sarah observed from her secured position. Through the office windows, she watched Ortiz's operation with professional interest. 3 shifts of guards rotating every 4 hours, communications center monitoring police bands, tactical teams maintaining perimeter security, professional but not flawless. Later, a younger guard approached holding a bottle of water. His tactical vest identified him as Ramirez, according to the name tape. Former military based on his bearing, but his eyes showed uncertainty. Thank you, Ramirez. Sarah's use of his name made him start slightly. Marine Force Recon, right? Afghanistan? His expression confirmed her analysis. How did you... The way you move. That distinct Force Recon scanning pattern. She took a sip of water. Tell me, what did they tell you about tonight's shipment? I'm not supposed to talk to you. But he lingered, curious despite himself. Of course not. La Sombra is dangerous, even tied to a chair. Sarah's voice carried just enough edge to make him nervous. But you're already having doubts, aren't you? Wondering why a simple land grab needs military-grade tactical teams, why those crates have radiation warning labels. Ramirez glanced involuntarily at the loading dock, where teams were preparing the shipment. Sarah noted the reaction. Radiation labels. Another piece of the puzzle. Those aren't just weapons, they're moving, she continued softly. You figured that out, haven't you? Regular guns don't need specialized handling protocols, don't need military security teams. Shut up. But his voice lacked conviction. Did Ortiz tell you about Juarez? About what happened to the last team that helped move cargo like this? A door slammed open as Ortiz entered, his face tight with controlled anger. Stop talking to the prisoner. He dismissed Ramirez with a gesture, then turned to Sarah. Trying to turn my men already? You haven't lost your touch. Just making conversation. Sarah smiled pleasantly, reminiscing about old times. Remember Sergeant Ruiz from Juarez, the one who helped us expose the operation? He got full immunity. Ortiz's facade cracked slightly. You're not getting out of this. Even if you are La Sombra, you're alone. No backup, no tactical team. Am I? Sarah shifted slightly, making him tense. Are you sure about that? Before he could respond, one of his communications specialists burst in. Boss, we've got movement. Multiple vehicles approaching from the north. Buyers are early. Not the buyers. The specialist's voice carried real concern. Different approach pattern. Professional. They're maintaining radio silence. Sarah watched Ortiz's expression shift. Expecting someone else? She asked innocently. His phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. How? This is impossible. Those are classified frequencies. Are they? Sarah kept her voice casual. You should ask your weapons buyers about their operational security, particularly their communications protocols. Sloppy work using the same frequencies as Juarez. Ortiz grabbed her chair, leaning close. What did you do? Me? I'm just a hostage. But her smile suggested otherwise. Although you might want to check your vehicles for tracking devices. Standard procedure during a kidnapping, plant trackers during the initial encounter. Your tactical team was so focused on looking professional, they forgot basic counter-surveillance. A new commotion erupted outside. One of the tactical team leaders rushed in. "Sir, we've got a problem. Local police scanner just lit up. Multiple federal agencies coordinating with state police. They're establishing roadblocks on all approaches to Dead Man's Pass." "Shut it down," Ortiz ordered, his composure cracking. "Scrub everything. Tell the buyers—" "Too late." Sarah's voice cut through his growing panic. "Those roadblocks aren't random. They're boxing you in, using your own tactical approach against you. Standard shadow protocol. Trap them in their own fortress." Ortiz's phone buzzed again. The message made him curse. "The buyers are backing out. Say there's too much heat." "Of course they are." Sarah settled more comfortably in her chair. Professional weapons buyers don't like complications. One hint of federal attention, they disappear, taking their money with them. Through the windows, she could see the operation unraveling. Guards abandoning positions, tactical teams arguing about evacuation protocols, the professional facade cracking under pressure. "You planned this," Ortiz accused. "The kidnapping, the tracking device, the buyers getting spooked. You wanted to be caught." "Partly true." Sarah met his gaze calmly. "I needed to confirm the connection to Juarez. Needed to identify the real players, Ortiz, the ones above you, the ones who shut down my investigation 15 years ago." A new voice crackled over the ranch's speakers, Agent Rodriguez's distinctive tone. "Attention, Sinaloa Cartel. This is a federal operation. We have you surrounded. All exits are covered. Surrender now." Sarah watched the last of Ortiz's confidence crumble. "You know what happens next, don't you? Your buyers are gone. Your tactical teams are ready to run, and everyone up the chain is already destroying evidence, erasing connections." "You're bluffing," Ortiz snarled. "This is just you and Rodriguez trying to—" Another specialist rushed in. "Boss, we've got satellite coverage, military grade. Someone's painting the building with targeting data." Sarah smiled. "Still think I'm bluffing? Your buyers weren't just afraid of federal attention. They were afraid of me, afraid of what lay. Sombra might have uncovered about their operation, about their connections to Juarez. Around them, the ranch erupted in chaos as cartel members realized the trap they were in. Some wanted to fight, others were already looking for escape routes. The professional tactical team stood apart, communicating urgently on their secured channels. "One last chance, Ortiz." Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. "Surrender now. Tell us everything about the buyers, about the classified shipments, about Juarez." "Or," she shrugged, "well, you remember what happened to the last organization that underestimated La Sombra." Ortiz stared at her for a long moment, weighing options that were rapidly disappearing. Outside, federal vehicles could be seen taking position. The net was closing. La Sombra was hunting again, and this time she had them exactly where she wanted them. The Diaz Ranch had become a pressure cooker. Sarah watched Ortiz's organization fracture as federal forces tightened their perimeter. The professional tactical teams had separated themselves from the regular cartel members, their military training obvious as they established defensive positions. "Sir!" Ramirez approached Ortiz nervously. "The radiation sensors. They're showing readings from those crates. What exactly are we moving here?" "Shut up and maintain your position," Ortiz snapped. But Sarah caught the fear beneath his Anger. The operation was unraveling faster than he could control. "Tell him, Ortiz," Sarah suggested calmly from her chair. "Tell him about the specialized weapons components. The ones that need those lead-lined containers. The ones your buyers are willing to pay millions for." "I said shut up." Ortiz drew his pistol, but his hand shook slightly. The tactical team leader stepped forward. "Boss, we need to make a decision. Local police scanners show federal tactical units moving into position. At least 3 different agencies. They're following shadow protocol," Sarah explained helpfully. "Multiple agencies, synchronized approach, the same technique I used in Juarez." She smiled at Ortiz. "Remember how that ended? Half the organization tried to surrender, hoping for deals. The other half, well, hospitals in 3 states got very busy." Ramirez moved closer to Sarah, his voice low. "What happened in Juarez?" "Don't answer," Ortiz started, but Sarah's voice cut through his. "Command, international weapons trafficking, military-grade components being sold to foreign buyers. Sound familiar?" She watched Ramirez's face as realization dawned. Just like now. Same buyers, same protocols, even the same radiation warnings on the crates. The tactical team leader cursed softly. "Those aren't just weapons parts in those containers, are they? We're moving nuclear components." The ranch erupted in angry shouts as more cartel members overheard. Regular sicarios had signed up for guns and drugs, not nuclear weapons trafficking. Sarah watched the chaos spread with professional satisfaction. "You're enjoying this?" Ortiz accused, his face pale with rage. "Immensely." Sarah shifted in her chair, making her guards tense. "Watch your men, Ortiz. See how they're dividing. Military-trained personnel by the exits, regular members clustering together. They're choosing sides, just like Juarez." An explosion rocked the perimeter as federal forces detonated their first breach charge. Not penetrating yet, just demonstrating their position. Classic shadow protocol, psychological pressure before physical assault. "Boss!" a communication specialist called from his station. "We're being jammed, all frequencies going dark." "Tell me, Ortiz," Sarah's voice carried through the growing chaos. "Did your buyers mention what happens to failed operators, the ones who lose shipments? Because I remember files full of accidents and disappearances." More explosions outside. Agent Rodriguez's voice boomed through professional-grade speakers. "Attention all personnel. We have satellite confirmation of nuclear materials on site. This is now a federal containment operation. Surrender immediately, or we will use lethal force." The effect was immediate. Regular cartel members began throwing down weapons. The professional tactical teams established a defensive perimeter, but Sarah could see the uncertainty in their movements. "Nuclear weapons components," Ramirez whispered, horrified. "We've been moving nuclear weapons components." "Not your fault," Sarah told him quietly. "They pick ex-military carefully. Men who follow orders don't ask questions until it's too late." Ortiz's phone buzzed. His face went ash-white as he read the message. "No, they can't. They promised." "Let me guess," Sarah said pleasantly. "Your buyers just officially disavowed all connection to this operation. Standard protocol when a shipment is compromised. Right now they're erasing records, eliminating links. Soon they'll start eliminating witnesses." The tactical team leader grabbed Ortiz's arm. "Is she right? Are they going to burn us?" "Nobody's burning anybody!" Ortiz shoved him away. "We stick to protocol. Destroy the evidence, eliminate witnesses, break contact." He glared at Sarah, including her. You want us to kill a federal agent? Ramirez gestured at Sarah. Former agent, Ortiz corrected, but his voice lacked conviction. Actually, Sarah smiled, my reinstatement paperwork was filed this morning. Agent Rodriguez's orders, full federal authority. She met Ortiz's eyes. Want to add killing a federal officer to nuclear trafficking charges? Another explosion. Closer now. Through the windows, Sarah could see federal tactical teams moving into position. The ranch had become a trap, just as she'd planned. Options, boss! The tactical team leader's voice carried military precision, but also fear. We're running out of time. Sarah watched Ortiz wrestle with his diminishing choices. Outside, more cartel members were surrendering. The professional teams were separating into smaller groups, some clearly planning to fight, while others prepared to run. 15 years, Ortiz, she said softly. 15 years I waited for this operation to resurface, for the real players to show themselves, and you led me right to them. Ortiz's phone buzzed again. This time reading the message made him stumble backward, true terror crossing his face. They're here, he whispered. Sarah's smile widened. The buyers? Good. I was hoping they'd come personally. She shifted again, making the chair creak. After all, a shadow can't hunt what it can't see, until now. 3 black SUVs approached the ranch's rear entrance, their diplomatic plates catching the security lights. Sarah counted 12 men emerging, their movement patterns identifying them as private military contractors. Their leader wore an expensive suit that didn't quite hide his tactical vest. Marcus Delgado, the shadow behind international arms trafficking operations across 3 continents. Marcus Delgado, Sarah said softly, recognizing the weapons. A buyer from her Juarez files. Still hiding behind diplomatic immunity, I see. Ortiz spun to face her. You know him? Of course. He was the one who ordered the Juarez operation shut down, called in favors, had my investigation buried. Sarah's smile turned predatory. Been waiting a long time to meet him properly. Delgado entered with the confident stride of someone used to owning every room. His security team spread out efficiently, assuming control of key positions from cartel members. Mr. Ortiz, Delgado's cultured voice carried clear authority. You assured me this facility was secure. It is, Ortiz started, but Delgado cut him off. Really? Then explain the federal tactical teams outside. Explain how our secure frequencies were compromised. His eyes found Sarah. Explain why you're holding the legendary La Sombra in your office. Former agent, Ortiz corrected automatically. No. Delgado moved closer, studying Sarah. This is La Sombra, the one who almost exposed our Juarez operation. A thin smile crossed his face. I wondered if you'd surface again. Couldn't resist, Sarah replied calmly. Same sloppy protocols, same radioactive signature on the shipments. You never learn, Marcus. Ramirez shifted nervously. Radioactive? Boss, you said this was just weapons. Shut up! Ortiz's control was cracking. Everyone just shut up and maintain position. But Sarah could see the warehouse dynamics shifting. Delgado's security team was isolating the nuclear components, while cartel members began backing away, realizing the true scale of what they'd been involved in. Your men weren't informed? Delgado raised an eyebrow at Ortiz. Sloppy operational. Security, just like Juarez. He turned to his security chief. Prepare for cleanup protocol Alpha. Sarah recognized the code phrase from her old case files. Still eliminating loose ends, Marcus. like those 3 soldiers who disappeared after Juarez. The effect on the tactical teams was immediate. They recognized a cleanup order when they heard one. Several moved toward the exits while others raised weapons, creating a 3-way standoff between Delgado's men, the cartel, and the professional contractors. Another explosion rocked the perimeter. Rodriguez's voice boomed again. "This is your..." "Final warning. We have tactical teams in position. Surrender now or we breach with lethal force." "Your operation is compromised," Delgado told Ortiz coldly. "Your men are unreliable. Time for professionals to handle this." "Like hell." The tactical team leader stepped forward. "We're not going down for this. Not getting cleaned up like those guys in Juarez." Sarah watched the tension rise, counting angles and distances. In the growing chaos, no one noticed her working at her restraints. The zip ties they'd used were professional grade, but they'd missed the ceramic blade hidden in her boot. Amateur mistake. "La Sombra isn't the only one who kept files," she announced casually. "Agent Rodriguez has copies of everything. Juarez, the diplomatic cover, the nuclear components. One phone call and it all goes public." Delgado's composed facade cracked slightly. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Check your secure channels. Notice anything missing, like the routing codes for your shipments, the ones being uploaded to federal servers right now." Ortiz grabbed Delgado's arm. "You promised us protection, said we'd have immunity." Delgado's security chief moved with professional efficiency. The suppressed shot dropped Ortiz before he could finish speaking. The ranch erupted in gunfire as the 3 factions turned on each other. Sarah used the chaos to make her move. The ceramic blade sliced through her restraints as Ramirez dove for cover behind her chair. "Choose now, Ramirez," she said calmly, even as bullets whizzed past. "Help me secure those nuclear components. You get immunity." "Try to run," she shrugged. "Well, you've seen how Delgado handles loose ends." Outside, federal tactical teams began their breach. The ranch had become a war zone of competing interests. Delgado's professionals trying to secure the shipment, cartel members fighting for survival, and tactical contractors looking for escape. But they'd all forgotten the most important thing about hunting shadows. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you think you have trapped. Sarah moved through the chaos like a ghost, Ramirez covering her flank. The nuclear components were her priority, keeping them out of Delgado's hands while federal teams breached. Just like Juarez, but this time she had what she needed. Proof of the international conspiracy, proof of Delgado's involvement, and witnesses ready to talk. La Sombra was loose, and the real hunting was about to begin. Sarah moved through the firefight with calculated precision, using the chaos as cover. Ramirez stayed close, following her lead as she navigated between shipping containers. His military training was showing, good situational awareness, proper tactical spacing. "The nuclear components," she said during a brief pause in the shooting. "Where exactly?" "Storage Bay 3, Ramirez replied, checking his ammunition. "Lead-lined. Containers, radiation warnings. But Delgado's men are between us and..." A burst of gunfire interrupted him as one of Delgado's security teams spotted them. Sarah pulled Ramirez behind a concrete pillar, analyzing angles and positions. 3 professionals with tactical gear and suppressed weapons, former special forces based on their movement patterns. "Remember your force recon training," she said, calmly. "What's the counter for a 3-man wedge formation?" Ramirez blinked, then understood. As Delgado's men advanced, he and Sarah split up, using crossing lines of fire to break their coordinated approach. La Sombra's reputation hadn't been exaggerated. She dropped 2 operators with precise shots to their body armor, disabling without killing, while Ramirez forced the 3rd to retreat. "Nice work," Sarah acknowledged as they moved forward. Through the ranch speakers, Agent Rodriguez announced the federal breach was beginning, multiple explosion points creating chaos and confusion. Delgado's commanding voice cut through the gunfire. "Secure those containers. Nothing else matters." "He's desperate," Sarah observed, leading Ramirez through a service corridor. "Nuclear components are just his cover story. There's something else in those containers, something worth killing for." They reached a catwalk overlooking Storage Bay 3. Below, Delgado's men were preparing to move the specialized containers while remnants of the cartel engaged in a running gun battle with the tactical contractors. Sarah's phone vibrated. Text from Rodriguez. "Satellite confirms unique thermal signature from containers, not matching nuclear profile." "Ramirez," she said quietly. "What color was the radiation warning symbol on those containers?" "Red and black standard." He stopped, realization hitting. "Wait, nuclear warnings are magenta and yellow." "Exactly." Sarah smiled grimly. "Delgado's been playing everyone. Even his own buyers think they're getting weapons-grade nuclear materials, but he's shipping something else. Something worth creating an elaborate cover story." A new explosion rocked the ranch as federal tactical teams made their first entry. Delgado security forces responded with professional precision while the remaining cartel members scattered. "Boss!" one of Delgado's operators called out. "Federal breach teams on 3 sides. We're running out of time." "Get those containers loaded," Delgado ordered. "Use Protocol 7 if you have to." Sarah's expression hardened. "Protocol 7, just like Juarez." "What's Protocol 7? Ramirez asked, ducking as bullets sparked off the catwalk railing. "Thermite charges. Destroy everything rather than let it be captured." Sarah checked her ammunition. "That's how they buried the evidence last time. Burned it all, including their own men." Below, Delgado's operators began planting charges while continuing to hold off federal teams. The ranch had become a complex battlefield. Federal agents breaching from multiple points, cartel members fighting for survival, tactical contractors looking for escape routes, and Delgado's professionals trying to protect their cargo. "Time to end this," Sarah said quietly. "Ramirez, I need you to create a distraction. Get their attention focused upward while I—" Movement caught her eye. One of Delgado's men was opening a container, preparing to plant charges. For just a moment, Sarah saw inside. Not nuclear components, something else. Something that made her curse softly. "Those containers," she said, "they're full of hard drives, servers, data storage." Understanding dawned on Ramirez's face. "Information. They're moving information. Not just any information." Sarah's voice was grim. "Those are military-grade quantum encryption servers, black box technology, the kind used to store intelligence operations data, covert assets, black site locations. Someone's stealing classified intelligence files." "Jesus," Ramirez whispered, "using nuclear components as cover." Another explosion rocked the building as federal teams breached the east wall. Through the chaos, Sarah spotted Delgado heading for a secure exit, protected by his remaining operators. "Choose now," she told Ramirez. "Help me stop Delgado, you. Get full immunity. Everything you did here gets classified as a sanctioned operation." Ramirez checked his weapon, then nodded. "What's the play?" "First we need to reach those servers before they trigger the thermite. Then—" Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills down Ramirez's spine. Then we show Delgado why they called me La Sombra. Below, Delgado's men had finished placing charges. Soon they would destroy evidence of one of the largest intelligence thefts in history. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd given La Sombra exactly what she needed: proof of an international conspiracy, proof of Delgado's true operation, and a chance to finish what started in Juarez. Sarah moved to the catwalk's edge, her voice carrying that quiet authority that had made cartel soldiers surrender rather than face her. Now, Ramirez, show me what Force Recon taught you about hunting predators. La Sombra was done playing defense. It was time to remind everyone why that nickname had haunted criminal nightmares for 15 years. Sarah and Ramirez moved along the catwalk with practiced efficiency, using the federal breach points as cover. Below, Delgado's men were starting to trigger the thermite charges, preparing to destroy the intelligence servers. "We've got 3 minutes once those charges start," Sarah said, checking angles. "After that, thermite burns hot enough to melt through the server casings." "Sir!" one of Delgado's operators called out. "Federal teams have breached the East Corridor. Agent Rodriguez is leading personally." Delgado's composed facade cracked. "Trigger all charges. Nothing can fall into federal hands." He turned to his security chief. "Prepare the backup protocol, like Operation Ghost Protocol." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Ghost Protocol, that's the connection I missed." She keyed her hidden communicator. "Rodriguez, are you receiving?" "Go. Ahead. Shadow." Rodriguez's voice was steady, despite the gunfire in the background. "Delgado's running the same operation as Ghost Protocol. Remember that CIA server farm that got hit? The one where classified files disappeared right before. A thermite accident." Through the chaos, Sarah could hear Rodriguez cursing. "Son of a... He's not stealing random intelligence. He's building a complete database of covert operations, assets, locations, protocols. Enough to compromise every intelligence agency in the Western world," Sarah confirmed. "Nuclear components or just cover? Nobody looks too closely at nuclear shipments. Too much paperwork, too many agencies involved." Ramirez checked his ammunition. "How do we stop them?" "The charges are sequenced," Sarah explained, moving into position. "They have to trigger in order, or the fail-safes kick in. Standard intelligence protocol." She smiled grimly. "The same protocol I helped design." Below, Delgado's men had started the sequence. The first thermite charge ignited with a brilliant flash, starting the countdown to total server destruction. "Now!" Sarah's command sent Ramirez into motion. They dropped from the catwalk onto shipping containers, using Delgado's own tactical positioning against him. His men had created perfect cover positions for anyone attacking from ground level. They weren't prepared for threats from above. Sarah moved like her nickname, a shadow flowing between cover points. 2 of Delgado's operators went down before they realized the attack was coming from an unexpected angle. Ramirez proved his Force Recon training, providing precise covering. Fire that forced the remaining security team to retreat. "The servers!" Delgado's voice carried real panic now. "Protect those servers!" But Sarah had reached the first row of containers. Her hands moved with practiced speed, disarming the thermite sequence she'd helped develop. Ramirez kept Delgado's men pinned down, while federal breach teams advanced from multiple directions. "It's over, Marcus," Sarah called out, her voice carrying that quiet authority. "Your entire operation is exposed. Ghost Protocol, Juarez, all of it. You don't understand what you're dealing with." Delgado's composure was gone. "This goes higher than you can imagine. Governments, intelligence agencies, people who can make anyone disappear." You mean like you made those CIA agents disappear? In Ghost Protocol, Sarah moved to the next set of charges. Or those NSA analysts in Juarez. More federal teams breached the ranch. Agent Rodriguez's voice boomed through tactical speakers. All units secure those servers. Priority Alpha. Delgado's remaining operators started to fall back. Professionals recognizing a lost cause. But Delgado himself seemed to snap. He charged toward the servers, pulling something from his jacket. "If I can't have the files," he snarled, "nobody can." Sarah recognized the device, a dead man's switch linked to emergency charges. She moved without hesitation, trusting Ramirez to cover her flank. Her first shot caught Delgado's arm, sending the switch flying. The second hit his tactical vest, driving him back, but Delgado wasn't finished. He drew his sidearm with his offhand, firing wildly. "You have no idea what you're stopping. The power in those files, the secrets, that's your problem, Marcus." Sarah's voice was almost gentle as she closed the distance. "You see secrets as power. I see them as responsibility." The final confrontation happened almost too fast to follow. Delgado, despite his expensive suit and diplomatic credentials, proved he remembered his special forces training. He and Sarah moved in a lethal dance of close-quarter combat, each looking for the decisive advantage. But there was a reason they called her La Sombra. Delgado never saw the final strike coming. One moment he was pressing his attack, the next he was disarmed and on his knees, Sarah's gun pressed against his head. "Ghost Protocol," she said softly. "Juarez. All those agents who disappeared. Talk fast, Marcus, before I decide you're too dangerous to take alive." Around them, federal teams secured the ranch. The remaining cartel members surrendered while tactical contractors threw down their weapons. Ramirez kept guard as Agent Rodriguez approached, his tactical team scanning for remaining threats. "The servers are secure," Rodriguez reported. "Looks like we got to them in time. The intelligence files are intact." Sarah kept her weapon trained on Delgado. "Almost too easy, wasn't it? Almost like someone wanted us to recover these specific servers." Delgado's laughter held no humor. "Finally figured it out, didn't you? You're right. These servers were bait. The real files, the real operation." He smiled coldly. "You've got no idea what's coming." Sarah met Rodriguez's eyes. They both recognized the implications. This wasn't just about stolen intelligence anymore. Someone had used Delgado's operation to distract from something bigger, something worth sacrificing an entire intelligence theft ring to hide. "I've learned something in 15 years of hunting shadows," Sarah told Delgado. "The bigger the operation, the more moving parts. The more moving parts, the more opportunities for things to break. And you, Marcus, you've got parts moving all over Texas." "You think stopping me changes anything?" Delgado sneered. "I'm just the public face. The real players, the ones who ordered Ghost Protocol, who shut down your investigation in Juarez. And they're untouchable. No one's untouchable." Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. "That's what makes La Sombra so dangerous. Shadows can reach anywhere, even the highest offices, and right now, your Shadow Masters are about to learn what it feels like to be hunted." Through the ranch windows, more federal vehicles arrived. Not tactical teams this time, but specialized units. Intelligence officers, analysts, experts in digital forensics. The real work was just beginning. "You know what your mistake was, Marcus?" Sarah asked as federal agents secured him for transport. "You thought because I retired, I stopped watching, but that's not how shadows work. We don't stop. We wait. We observe. We learn." She turned to Rodriguez. "How long until you can crack those servers?" "Won't need to," he replied with a grim smile. Turns out our friend here kept detailed records of everyone involved. Paranoid type, wanted insurance, in case his employers tried to burn him. Smart man. Sarah's smile was cold. Send everything to every intelligence agency involved. Let them all see who's been compromising their operations, selling their secrets, eliminating their agents. Delgado's face showed real fear now. You can't. They'll kill you? Sarah finished. Probably. But that's the thing about shadows, Marcus. Once exposed to light, they cease to exist. And right now, there's a lot of light about to shine on some very dark places. She turned to Ramirez, who still stood guard with professional precision. Ready for a new job. Agent Rodriguez could use someone with your training. Ramirez nodded. Yes, ma'am. Though I've got to ask, why'd you let them take you? Why not just raid the ranch? Because sometimes the best way to expose a shadow is to become one, Sarah explained. They were careful, professional, hidden behind layers of protection, but they had one weakness. They thought they were the predators. Through the ranch windows, the Texas sunrise was painting the sky gold. Sarah watched as federal teams continued processing the scene, securing evidence that would expose one of the largest intelligence compromises in history. But she knew this wasn't over. Somewhere in the shadows, the real players were watching, realizing their careful plans had been disrupted by the very agent they'd tried to eliminate years ago. Let them watch, she thought. Let them worry. Because La Sombra wasn't done hunting. The shadow was about to show them why even the most powerful players should fear the dark. The Diaz Ranch had become a federal crime scene. Technical teams swarmed the server containers while tactical units secured the perimeter. Sarah watched them work from a makeshift command post, her mind processing patterns others might miss. The servers were a distraction, she told Rodriguez as they reviewed preliminary data. Delgado wanted us focused on the intelligence theft while something bigger moved into position. Makes sense. Rodriguez pulled up satellite imagery on his tactical tablet. We've got increased activity at 3 other sites along Deadman's Pass, all showing the same radiation signature we tracked here. Those are the properties the cartel was forcing people to sell, Ramirez added, studying the images. They needed the whole route. Not for moving servers, Sarah nodded, for moving something else, something worth burning an entire intelligence operation to hide. Delgado sat handcuffed nearby, his expensive suit now dirty and torn, but his earlier panic had been replaced by an unsettling calm. You still don't see it, do you? He smiled at Sarah. All these years hunting shadows, you never asked who really shut down your Juarez investigation. Who had that kind of authority? Director Phillips, Sarah replied. He claimed national security concerns. Phillips was a messenger, Delgado laughed softly. Just like I'm a messenger. There are larger forces at work, Shadow. Forces that make your federal badge look like a child's toy. A commotion at the perimeter drew their attention. A black SUV with diplomatic plates had arrived, accompanied by 2 more vehicles with government markers. Right on time, Delgado murmured. A man in an expensive suit emerged from the SUV, flanked by security. He moved with the confident stride of someone used to absolute authority. Sarah recognized him immediately. William Crawford, Deputy Director of Special Operations. Well, she said softly, this just got interesting. Rodriguez cursed under his breath. Crawford was in charge of oversight for Ghost Protocol, the operation where those servers disappeared. The operation where agents disappeared, Sarah corrected, watching Crawford approach. Just like Juarez. Crawford's security team spread out professionally as he reached the command post. His smile was practiced, political. "Agent Hawkins, quite a situation you've uncovered here. Unfortunately, this operation now falls under Special Operations oversight. We'll take it from here." Sarah studied him carefully. "Will you? Like you took over Ghost Protocol? Juarez?" Crawford's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. "Careful, Agent. Some questions are above your pay grade. Like why the Deputy Director of Special Operations is personally interested in a cartel, weapons operation, or why radiation signatures are showing up at multiple sites along Dead Man's Pass." Ramirez added, his voice carrying military precision. "This is now a classified operation," Crawford replied. "All evidence and prisoners will be transferred to federal custody, including Mr. Delgado." Delgado's earlier calm made sense now. He'd been waiting for this. Crawford's security team subtly shifted positions, hands moving closer to weapons. The tension in the command post ratcheted up. "Stand down, Agent," Crawford ordered. "That's a direct command from the Office of Special Operations." Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills through the room. "Here's the problem, Director. I've spent 15 years tracking this operation, watching patterns, connecting dots." She moved with deliberate calm, making Crawford's security team nervous. "And now I know why Juarez was shut down, why Ghost Protocol was buried, because someone high up in Special Operations is running their own operation, moving something so classified it's worth killing to protect." "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Crawford's political mask cracked slightly. The bigger picture is that American agents are dying," Sarah cut him off. "Disappeared, eliminated, buried in accidents when they get too close. Just like you planned for me and Juarez." Crawford's hand moved toward his. "Jacket, that's enough. Security, take them into custody, all of them." But Sarah had been waiting for this. Her phone broadcast a pre-recorded message to every federal frequency. "Attention all units. Be advised Operation Shadow Hunt is now active. Authorization code Ghost 7 Delta." Through the ranch windows, they could see tactical teams moving into new positions. Not Crawford's security, but Sarah's people, the ones she'd spent 15 years placing carefully. "It's called having a longer game, Director," she said softly. "While you were watching for shadows, I was building an army." Crawford's face showed real fear now. "You can't. This operation is vital to national security. The material being moved is what exactly?" Sarah's voice carried absolute authority. "Because in about 30 seconds, every federal agency in 3 states will be moving on those convoys. So talk fast, Director. What are you really moving through Dead Man's Pass?" The game had changed. The question was, how far up did the conspiracy really go? Crawford's security team maintained their positions, but Sarah could see the uncertainty in their stance. Professional operators recognized when a situation had shifted beyond their control. "Those convoys," Sarah kept her voice calm while reviewing tactical feeds. "They're not just heading for the border. They're converging on specific coordinates. Care to explain why the Deputy Director of Special Operations is coordinating with foreign buyers on American soil?" "You have no authority," Crawford started, but Sarah cut him off. 3 teams of federal tactical units moving to intercept," she announced, letting him see the live feeds. "Satellite coverage showing your convoy routes, and most importantly," she smiled coldly, "complete records of every operation you've buried. Ghost Protocol, Juarez, all of it." Ramirez approached with new data on his tablet. Agent, we've got thermal imaging from the convoy loads, not matching any known radiation profile. Because it's not nuclear material, Sarah said, watching Crawford's reaction. Is it, Director? That was just cover for what you're really moving, something worth compromising special operations for. Crawford's political mask cracked further. You don't understand. These materials, they're beyond classified, beyond any normal protocol. Sir, one of his security team reported urgently. Federal units have blocked all access routes to Highway 17. The convoys are being boxed in. Talk fast, Director, Sarah advised, as she watched panic spread across Crawford's face. Because in about 5 minutes, those convoys hit our roadblocks, and then everyone sees what you're really transporting. Huh? You can't stop this. Crawford's voice held desperate authority. These shipments are vital to national security, to relationships with our allies. Allies? Sarah stepped closer, making his security team tense. Like the buyers in Ghost Protocol? The ones who disappeared our intelligence agents after getting what they wanted. Ramirez checked another tactical feed. Agent, Convoy 2 is attempting to divert onto county roads. Local units moving to intercept. Crawford grabbed for his phone, but Sarah was faster. Let me guess, calling to authorize lethal force, just like Juarez. She held up her own phone, showing him the signal jammer. No more buried operations, Director. No more disappeared agents. You don't have the authority, Crawford began, but Sarah's laugh cut him off. I have something better than authority, she said softly. I have proof of every operation you've compromised, every agent you've sacrificed, every deal you've made with foreign intelligence services. She nodded to Ramirez. Show him. Ramirez displayed his tablet, showing Crawford surveillance photos, financial records, communication logs. 15 years of carefully gathered evidence. You've been playing chess, Sarah explained. I've been playing a longer game. Every site you've used, every route you've established, every contact you've made, I've been watching, waiting, building. The case that would expose everything. Crawford's security team looked increasingly uncertain. These were professional operators, trained to protect government officials. But they weren't trained for this, for discovering their boss was compromising national security. Sir, the team leader said carefully, we need to know. Are these shipments authorized by the Special Operations Committee? Stand down, Crawford ordered, but his voice shook slightly. Sarah pressed her advantage. Tell them, Director. Tell them about the real buyers, the ones who've been purchasing classified intelligence, acquiring restricted materials, eliminating witnesses. Agent, Ramirez called urgently. Convoy 3 has stopped. Their security teams. They're surrendering to federal units. Crawford moved with desperate speed, drawing a concealed weapon. But Sarah had been waiting for this too. She countered with practiced efficiency, disarming him before his own security could react. That's the problem with corrupt officials, she said as Crawford went to his knees, clutching his injured hand. They always think they're the smartest ones in the room. Always think they're untouchable. Her phone buzzed again. Rodriguez updating, all convoys contained. You need to see what they're carrying. This goes deeper than we thought. Sarah kept Crawford covered while his security team, now fully aware of the situation, secured him properly. Now, she said softly, letting him see the shadow that had haunted criminal nightmares. Let's talk about what you're really moving through my territory and who you're really working for. The game had changed. The real operation was about to be exposed, and Crawford was about to learn why they called her La Sombra, because once she started hunting, nowhere was safe to hide. The first images from the intercepted convoys made even Sarah pause. The trucks hadn't been carrying weapons or nuclear materials. What they contained was far more dangerous. Advanced biotechnology equipment, experimental prototypes, and classified research data from America's most secure facilities. Synthetic virus development equipment, Ramirez reported, reviewing the manifest. DNA sequencers, containment units, experimental formulas, everything needed to create engineered pathogens. Crawford, now securely restrained, laughed bitterly. You have no idea what you've done. The deals in place, the arrangements with foreign partners. You mean like these? Sarah displayed intercepted communications on the command post screens. Arrangements with rogue bioweapons labs, sales of classified research, transfer of restricted technology to foreign powers. She studied Crawford's reaction. All authorized under your security clearance. Agent Rodriguez's voice crackled through the tactical comm. Shadow, you need to see this. Convoy 3 was carrying personnel files, lists of scientists, research locations, project details. He wasn't just selling technology. He was selling out our entire biodefense program, Sarah realized, watching Crawford's expression. Every researcher, every facility, every security protocol. You think too small, Crawford sneered. This is bigger than bioweapons, bigger than national security. This is about the future of warfare itself. Ramirez approached with new data. Agent, we're tracking multiple unauthorized satellite uplinks. Someone's activated emergency protocols at the other Dead Man's Pass sites. Sarah smiled coldly. Your buyers getting nervous, Director, realizing their investment is about to be exposed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Crawford's voice held real fear now. These people, they don't just eliminate witnesses, they erase entire operations, make whole research programs disappear. Like they tried to do in Ghost Protocol. Sarah moved closer, letting him see the predator behind her calm exterior. Tell me, Director, who really ordered my investigation shut down? Who has enough authority to bury evidence of international bioweapons development? Before Crawford could respond, Ramirez called out urgently, multiple vehicles approaching from the north. Diplomatic plates, but the thermal signatures, they're carrying biological containment equipment. Your real masters arriving? Sarah asked Crawford. The ones who've been buying America's classified research? Crawford's face went pale. You don't understand. They'll kill everyone. Clean the whole operation, just like Ghost Protocol. No! Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. They won't! She keyed her tactical comm. All units, this is Shadow. Execute Operation Blackout Protocol. Around the ranch perimeter, hidden federal teams emerged from concealed positions. Not regular tactical units, but specialized hazmat operators, the ones Sarah had spent years recruiting and positioning. See, Director, she explained calmly, while you were selling out our research programs, I was building my own. Every scientist you threatened, every operator you tried to silence, I gave them a new purpose, a way to fight back. Ramirez checked the tactical feeds. Foreign teams entering our containment zone. 8 vehicles, multiple armed operators in biological protection gear. Let them come, Sarah said softly. Let them see what happens when they push American researchers too far. When they try to buy and sell our people like commodities. Crawford struggled against his restraints. You don't have the authority. These are foreign intelligence services. Diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover bioterrorism, Sarah cut him off. Doesn't protect people who sell out their own country's defense. She turned to the tactical screens, watching the approaching vehicles. And it definitely doesn't shield foreign agents conducting hostile bioweapons operations on American soil. Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams taking positions, professional operators used to working with impunity under diplomatic cover. But they weren't prepared for what awaited them. Sarah had spent 15 years building this moment, creating a force capable of standing against corrupt officials and foreign intelligence services. "Ramirez," Sarah ordered calmly, "show them what happens when they hunt on our ground." The real operation was about to begin, and La Sombra was done playing defense. The foreign teams made their first mistake immediately, treating this like a standard deniable operation. Their vehicles approached in tactical formation, operators in biological protection suits ready to use diplomatic immunity as cover. They weren't expecting Sarah's people, multiple specialized teams converging with their own advanced containment equipment. "Standard infiltration pattern," Ramirez reported from tactical. "They're moving to secure the biotech shipments. Identify." "They're tactical channels," Sarah ordered. "Yes, ma'am, same frequencies they used in Ghost Protocol." She smiled coldly. "Patch me in." The foreign operator tactical channel crackled with her voice. "Attention unauthorized bioweapons teams. This is U.S. Federal Agent Sarah Hawkins. You are conducting hostile biological operations on American soil. Stand down or face immediate response." Their reaction was predictable, accelerating their approach, weapons ready. Standard protocol. When diplomatic cover was threatened, "They're not stopping," Crawford warned almost desperately. "You don't understand what they're capable of." "No," Sarah corrected calmly. "They don't understand what we're capable of." She keyed her tactical comm. "All units execute containment protocol." The foreign team's formation suddenly collapsed as hidden federal operators emerged from pre-positioned sites, not regular tactical units, but specialized hazmat teams. Operators who'd survived previous cleanup attempts, who understood exactly what they were fighting. "Sir," one of the foreign team leaders called urgently through the tactical channel, "we're boxed in. These aren't standard federal units." "Because we're not standard federal units," Sarah replied through their comm. "We're the ones you tried to eliminate. The ones who survived Ghost Protocol, Juarez, all your other cleanup operations." Ramirez monitored the tactical feeds as Sarah's team systematically isolated and contained the foreign operators. Professional efficiency against professional efficiency. But Sarah's people had the advantage of preparation and righteous anger. "Agent," Ramirez called out, "foreign teams are receiving new orders. Their vehicles are powering up some kind of biological dispersal system." "Expected that." Sarah nodded to a hidden signal team. They activated pre-positioned countermeasures, neutralizing the foreign team's bioweapons. Another layer of preparation. Revealed. Crawford watched with growing horror as his backup plan collapsed. "This is impossible. These protocols, this level of coordination. What's impossible," Sarah cut him off, "is thinking you could keep selling out American scientists without consequences. That we wouldn't find each other, organize, prepare to fight back." Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams realizing their situation. Diplomatic immunity meant nothing here. Their advanced biotech was neutralized. They were facing opponents who'd studied their tactics, who knew their protocols, who'd prepared specifically to counter them. "Last chance," Sarah announced on their tactical channel. "Surrender now, or discover why they call me La Sombra." Ramirez checked the feeds. "Foreign teams are deploying specialized units, Some kind of counter-biological warfare operators. Good. Sarah's smile was predatory. Show them what a real counter-bio-warfare operation looks like. Her hidden teams moved with lethal precision, using everything they'd learned from surviving previous encounters. The foreign operators found themselves systematically isolated, their tactical advantages neutralized, their diplomatic cover meaningless. "This is what happens," Sarah told Crawford as they watched, "when you betray your own people, when you sell them out to foreign powers. They don't just disappear, they learn, adapt, come back stronger. You didn't just build a tactical team." Crawford's face showed real understanding now. "You built a shadow research agency." "We built ourselves," Sarah corrected. "Every scientist you tried to eliminate, every researcher who survived your cleanup attempts, we found each other, organized, prepared for this moment." "Agent," Ramirez reported urgently, "foreign teams are attempting to trigger some kind of fail-safe, biological release signals." "Blocked," Sarah assured him. "We studied their protocols after Ghost Protocol. No more convenient accidents to cover their tracks." The foreign team's tactical channel erupted with urgent communications as they realized the trap they were in. These weren't regular federal agents they could intimidate with diplomatic credentials. These were survivors, operators who'd faced their cleanup teams before and lived to fight back. "Sir!" one of the foreign commanders called desperately. "We need authorization for maximum force." "Your authorization is meaningless here," Sarah replied through their comm. "This isn't a diplomatic operation anymore. This is judgment." Around the ranch perimeter, her teams continued their systematic containment. Each foreign operator faced the consequences of their previous actions. The scientists they'd tried to eliminate now returned with righteous purpose. La Sombra's hunt was reaching its climax, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The Diaz Ranch had become ground zero for an international incident. Sarah's teams maintained their containment of the foreign operators while specialized units secured the intercepted biotech materials. "Two more diplomatic vehicles approaching from the east," Ramirez reported. "Different configuration. Looks like command and control units." Sarah nodded. "They're senior officers arriving to take control. Right on schedule." She turned to Crawford. "Want to tell me who's really in charge of your operation? Who has the authority to deploy bioweapons teams on American soil?" Crawford's earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by growing fear. "You don't understand. These people, they control everything. Research programs, military contracts, international security protocols." "The Shadow Council," Ramirez said quietly, showing Sarah his tablet. "Agent, I'm finding references in the convoy files. Some kind of international oversight group operating above normal channels." Sarah studied the data. "Not oversight, infiltration, using corrupt officials like Crawford to steal classified research, compromise security networks, eliminate anyone who gets too close." "They're not going to stop," Crawford warned. "The Council doesn't leave loose ends. They'll burn everything, kill everyone, like they tried in Ghost Protocol." "Like Juarez," Sarah's voice carried deadly calm. "That's the problem with operating in shadows, Director. Sometimes you find real ghosts." The foreign tactical channel erupted with new activity as the command vehicles arrived. Ramirez monitored their communications. Multiple authorization codes being transmitted. "They're trying to activate some kind of kill switch in the biotech materials." "Won't work," Sarah said confidently. "We've already isolated the containment units. No remote access, no self-destruct protocols." She smiled at Crawford's surprise. "We learned from Ghost Protocol. No more convenient accidents to cover your tracks." Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams regrouping around their newly arrived leadership, professional operators adjusting tactics, preparing for a more coordinated assault. "Sir," Ramirez called urgently, "the command vehicles are broadcasting on restricted frequencies, same pattern as the Juarez operation." Sarah's expression hardened. "Show me." The tactical screen displayed communication patterns that confirmed her suspicions. "These aren't just foreign intelligence services," she explained. "This is who really shut down my investigation, the ones Crawford really works for." "The Council," Ramirez understood. "They're here personally." "Of course they are." Sarah checked her tactical feeds. "We've got their biotech, their compromised agents, proof of their entire operation. They have to try to contain this." "You think stopping me changes anything?" Crawford sneered. "I'm just the public face. The real players, the ones who ordered Ghost Protocol, who shut down your investigation in Juarez. They're untouchable." "No one's untouchable." Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. "That's what makes La Sombra so dangerous. Shadows can reach anywhere, even the highest offices, and right now, your shadow masters are about to learn what it feels like to be hunted." Through the ranch windows, more federal vehicles arrived, not tactical teams this time, but specialized units. Scientists, researchers, experts in biological containment. The real work was just beginning. "You know what your mistake was, Crawford?" Sarah asked as federal agents secured him for transport. "You thought because I retired, I stopped watching. But that's not how shadows work. We don't stop. We wait. We observe. We learn." She turned to Rodriguez. "How long until we can analyze?" What they were developing. "Won't need to," he replied with a grim smile. "Turns out our friend here kept detailed records of everyone involved. Paranoid type. Wanted insurance in case his employers tried to burn him." "Smart man." Sarah's smile was cold. "Send everything to every research agency involved. Let them all see who's been compromising their programs, stealing their work, eliminating their scientists." Crawford's face showed real fear now. "You can't. They'll kill you?" Sarah finished. "Probably. But that's the thing about shadows, Crawford. Once exposed to light, they cease to exist. And right now, there's a lot of light about to shine. On some very dark places." She turned to Ramirez, who still stood guard with professional precision. "Ready for a new assignment?" "Agent Rodriguez could use someone with your training in the Biodefense Division." Ramirez nodded. "Yes, ma'am, though I've got to ask, why'd you let them take you? Why not just raid the ranch?" "Because sometimes the best way to expose a shadow is to become one," Sarah explained. They were careful, professional, hidden behind layers of protection, but they had one weakness. They thought they were the predators. Through the ranch windows, the Texas sunrise was painting the sky gold. Sarah watched as federal teams continued processing the scene, securing evidence that would expose one of the largest bioweapons conspiracies in history. But she knew this wasn't over. Somewhere in the shadows, the real players were watching, realizing their careful plans had been disrupted by the very agent they'd tried to eliminate years ago. Let them watch, she thought. Let them worry. Because La Sombra wasn't done hunting. The shadow was about to show them why even the most powerful players should fear the dark, and this time there would be nowhere left to hide. The command vehicle's heavily tinted windows finally opened, revealing the true face of the Shadow Council. 3 figures emerged, not the military operators or intelligence agents Sarah's team had been containing, but elegant men in expensive suits, people used to wielding power from comfortable offices, not tactical situations. Councillors Chen, Reeves and Volkov. Sarah identified them through the command post window. The ones who really control international bioweapons development. The ones who ordered Juarez buried. Ramirez checked his tactical feeds. Agent, we're getting responses from research agencies worldwide. Your evidence dump is causing chaos in every major capital. Of course it is, Sarah smiled coldly. 15 years of classified council operations suddenly exposed. Every corrupt official, every compromised scientist, every illegal program, all public now. Crawford watched the council members approach with growing dread. They'll kill everyone, burn everything. They can't afford witnesses. That's your mistake, Director, Sarah cut him off. Still thinking like they do, still believing in their shadows. She keyed her tactical comm. All units prepare to receive council leadership. The three councillors walked with careful precision through the contained foreign operators, their expensive shoes in Congress on the ranch's dusty ground. Chen, their apparent leader, maintained his diplomatic facade. Agent Hawkins, he greeted smoothly. I must protest this unprecedented breach of diplomatic protocol. Save it, Sarah interrupted. Your diplomatic cover is blown. Right now, every research agency in the world is reviewing proof of your existence. The Shadow Council isn't a whispered rumor anymore. Reeves stepped forward, his cultured voice carrying subtle threat. You have no idea what you've done, the careful balance we maintain. You mean the balance of power you've stolen? Sarah's voice could have frozen flame. Using people like Crawford to compromise research programs, eliminating scientists who get too close. We maintain order, Volkov insisted. Control the flow of biological research. Prevent destructive developments. By selling classified research to the highest bidder, Ramirez displayed intercepts on the tactical screen. By trading bioweapons between nations? Chen's diplomatic mask cracked slightly. Agent, surely we can discuss this reasonably. Your evidence, while concerning, could be explained like you explained Ghost Protocol. Sarah moved with predatory grace, making the councillors step back. Like Juarez, no more explanations, no more shadows to hide in. Through the command post windows, they could see more federal units arriving, not regular tactical teams, but specialized containment units responding to Sarah's evidence release. The kind of operators who handled major biological incidents. It's over, Sarah told the councillors. Your network is exposed. Your corrupt officials are being arrested worldwide. Your carefully constructed shadow empire is falling apart in real time. You don't understand what you're unleashing. Chen's voice held real fear now. The chaos when these secrets emerge. I understand perfectly. Sarah's smile was terrifying in its calm. I understand you've spent decades manipulating research, programs, compromising scientists, eliminating anyone who threatened your power. Now those same scientists are coming for you. Ramirez monitored global communications. Agent, we're getting confirmation. Research agencies worldwide are moving. On council facilities, arrests being made at highest levels. Impossible, Reeves whispered. Our security protocols were compromised the moment you tried to eliminate me in Juarez, Sarah explained. You see, that's the problem with people who think they're untouchable. They never look for ghosts in their own shadows. The council members' composure finally shattered as they realized the true scope of their situation. Sarah hadn't just exposed their operation, she'd systematically dismantled their entire power structure. Your choice is simple, she told them quietly. Surrender now. Provide evidence against your entire network, and maybe You survive what's coming. Or, she shrugged, find out why they call me La Sombra. Chen made a desperate gesture to his contained operators. Maximum force, eliminate everyone. But the foreign teams didn't move. They'd seen Sarah's evidence, understood what the council really was. Professional operators, faced with proof they'd been working for criminals who manipulated research programs for profit. They won't help you, Sarah said softly. No one will. Welcome to judgment, counselors. The ghosts you created are coming home to haunt you. The Shadow Council's reign was ending, and the ghost hunt was almost complete. The council members' composed facades had crumbled, replaced by the desperate calculation of cornered predators. Sarah watched them process their situation, noting every micro-expression, every tell that might telegraph their next move. "Agent!" Ramirez reported urgently. "Multiple high-level communications being detected. The Council is activating some kind of emergency protocol." "Of course they are." Sarah's voice remained calm. "Show me." The tactical screens displayed a surge of encrypted transmissions. Chen pulled out a satellite phone, his hands shaking slightly as he input commands. "Last chance, Shadow," he said, trying to reclaim his authoritative tone. "You have no idea what fail-safes we've built into the global research network, what chaos we can unleash." "You mean like Operation Doomsday?" Sarah's question made all three counselors freeze. "Your emergency protocol to release engineered pathogens worldwide. Interesting plan. Shame about the back door we found in the containment systems." Reeves's diplomatic mask cracked completely. "Impossible! Those systems are quantum encrypted by the same technology you were stealing." Sarah nodded to Ramirez, who displayed more tactical data. "The technology we've been studying for the past 15 years. Amazing what you can learn when you know where to look." Through the command post windows, they could see the contained foreign operators watching the exchange intently, professional agents recognizing the shift in power dynamics. "Sir," Ramirez called out, checking new feeds. "Council facilities worldwide are going into lockdown. They're trying to purge their systems." "Too late," Sarah said coldly. "The evidence is already spreading. Every research agency, every law enforcement organization, every military command structure, they're all seeing exactly who's been manipulating them." Volkov made a subtle hand gesture to his security team. "Then perhaps it's time for more direct measures." "I wouldn't," Sarah advised quietly. "Your operators have already seen the evidence. They know what you really are now. How many scientists you've sacrificed, how many research programs you've compromised for profit." She smiled at the foreign teams. "Isn't that right?" The professional operators remained disciplined, but their stance had changed. Men and women trained to follow orders now faced proof their leaders were criminals who'd manipulated research programs for personal gain. Chen's satellite phone chirped. His face went ash-white as he read the message. "No, this is impossible." "Your Swiss accounts?" Sarah asked pleasantly. "Amazing how quickly banks cooperate when presented with evidence of international criminal conspiracy. Your emergency funds are being frozen as we speak." Reeves grabbed Chen's arm. "The containment sites, if we can reach, already compromised," Ramirez reported, displaying more tactical feeds. "Federal teams are moving on council facilities across 3 continents. Your backup plans are falling apart in real time." Sarah watched the councillor's composure disintegrate as decades of careful manipulation collapsed around them. "You built your power on shadows," she told them quietly. Use them to hide your operations, eliminate threats, maintain control. But shadows work both ways. Sometimes they hide the hunters, not just the hunted. Through her tactical comm, Agent Rodriguez reported, "Shadow, we've got confirmation. Council leadership worldwide is being taken into custody. Their network is exposed." "You've doomed us all," Chen snarled, desperation replacing his diplomatic tone. "The secrets we contain, the research we control, releasing them will destroy the balance of power. The balance you manufactured." Sarah's voice carried deadly calm. "The one you maintained by selling military secrets, compromising scientists, eliminating anyone who threatened your control." Ramirez monitored global communications. "Agent, research agencies worldwide are coordinating response. They're shutting down council operations, securing compromised facilities. Your choice is simple," Sarah told the councillors. "Surrender now, provide evidence against your entire network, face justice in multiple jurisdictions, or," she shrugged, "find out what happens when every research agency you've manipulated decides to hunt you." Chen made one final, desperate play. He pulled a small device from his jacket, some kind of dead man's switch. "Kill codes," he announced, "embedded in every major research facility. One signal and—" The device clattered from his hand, disabled by a precise shot from Ramirez. Sarah hadn't even seen the young operator draw his weapon. "Nice shot," she acknowledged. "And excellent trigger discipline, hitting the transmitter housing without damaging the circuitry." "Force recon training, ma'am," Ramirez replied professionally. "Plus I've spent the last hour studying council equipment signatures. They're fail-safe. Devices all have the same weak point." The councillors stared at their fallen device, their last desperate gambit neutralized with surgical precision. Around them, their contained foreign operators began formally surrendering to Sarah's teams. "You see," Sarah explained almost gently, "that's the difference between us. You spent decades building power through manipulation and fear. I spent 15 years building something stronger, a network of professionals who understand real loyalty, who remember what it means to serve justice, not profit." Through the command post windows, they could see more federal units arriving, specialized teams coordinating with international task forces, preparing to take the council leadership into custody. "It's over," Sarah told them quietly. "Your shadow empire is exposed. Your corrupt officials are being arrested worldwide. Your carefully constructed network is being dismantled piece by piece." Chen's face showed pure hatred now. "You have no idea what you've done, the chaos you've unleashed." "Actually, I do," Sarah smiled coldly. "I understand exactly what happens when decades of corruption are exposed, when compromised scientists realize they've been manipulated, when professional operators discover they've been working for criminals." Ramirez monitored tactical feeds showing the global response. "Agent, intelligence agencies are coordinating custody arrangements. Multiple jurisdictions want to prosecute council leadership." "Of course they do." Sarah watched the councillors wrestle with their collapsing reality. "Amazing how quickly loyalty disappears when the shadows are stripped away. When people see exactly who they've been serving." The ranch had become a focal point of international justice. Sarah's 15-year hunt was ending not with a spectacular firefight, but with the systematic dismantling of a corrupt power structure. "Agent," Ramirez reported, checking new data, "we're getting preliminary numbers. Over 300 corrupt officials identified. Thousands of compromised operations exposed, dozens of eliminated scientists now confirmed as council targets." Send everything to the International Task Force, Sarah ordered. Let every research agency see exactly how they've been manipulated, how many of their people were sacrificed for council profits. The councillors stood in defeated silence as federal teams moved to take them into custody. Their carefully constructed world of shadows and manipulation had been systematically exposed and dismantled by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate. A ghost who'd learned to hunt back. La Sombra's mission was almost complete, but Sarah knew from experience that the most dangerous predators were the ones with nothing left to lose. The council's reign was ending, but the final confrontation was still to come. The ranch erupted in chaos as Chen made his final desperate move. Despite being in custody, the council leader had one last card to play. He triggered a hidden device in his watch, and suddenly emergency protocols activated across all communication channels. "Agent!" Ramirez called urgently. "Multiple systems going dark. Some kind of coordinated cyber attack." "Their dead hand protocol," Sarah explained calmly, watching security systems crash around them. The Council's ultimate failsafe, designed to create enough chaos to cover their escape. Through the command post windows, they could see the effects spreading. Security cameras failed. Communication networks crashed. Even the federal tactical team's encrypted channels went silent. "You should have taken the deal," Chen sneered, his composed facade returning. "Now everything burns, just like Juarez." But Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills through the room. "You really should have checked who designed your emergency protocols. After Juarez, we knew you'd try something like this." Ramirez worked his console with practiced efficiency. "Backup systems engaging, Agent. Everything exactly where you said it would be." The council members watched in growing horror as their failsafe turned against them. Instead of crashing systems, their protocol was now exposing hidden networks, revealing secret communications, laying bare decades of carefully concealed operations. 15 years, Sarah explained quietly. 15 years studying your patterns, your protocols, your fail-safes. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for this? Reeves lunged for Ramirez's console, but the young operator moved with military precision. The council member found himself face down, professionally restrained before he could reach the equipment. "Force recon training, sir," Ramirez explained professionally, "plus some extra lessons from La Sombra." Through the tactical feeds that remained active, they could see the global impact of the Council's desperate gambit. But instead of creating covering chaos, their dead hand protocol was exposing everything. "Agent!" Rodriguez's voice crackled through a secured channel. "Council facilities worldwide are going dark, but our embedded systems are tracking everything. Their entire shadow network is lighting up." Sarah nodded to Ramirez. "Show them." The tactical screens displayed a cascade of data. Hidden council. Operations being exposed. Secret facilities revealed. Decades of carefully concealed communications suddenly laid bare. "You see," Sarah told the devastated council members, "we didn't just study your protocols. We rebuilt them. Every failsafe, every emergency system, every last-ditch option. We turned them all into back doors." Volkov struggled against his restraints. "Impossible. Our systems are quantum encrypted by the same technology you were stealing." Sarah's smile was predatory. "The technology we've been studying for 15 years. Amazing what you can learn when you know where to look." Chen's composure finally shattered completely. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The chaos this will cause, research facilities worldwide will be compromised. No, Sarah corrected coldly. Research facilities worldwide will be cleaned. Every corrupt official exposed, every compromised operation revealed, every criminal conspiracy laid bare. Ramirez monitored the expanding cascade of revelations. Agent, we're getting reports from multiple agencies. Council sleeper agents being identified. Hidden accounts exposed, black operations revealed. The shadows are burning away, Sarah told the council leaders. Everything you built, everything you manipulated, everything you killed to protect. All of it exposed to the light. Through the command post windows, they could see federal tactical teams securing the perimeter. But these weren't regular units anymore. These were specialized operators responding to international protocols, preparing to take custody of the architects of a global conspiracy. Your choice now is simple, Sarah explained to the defeated council members. Cooperate fully. Tell us everything about your operations, your networks, your hidden protocols. Or, she shrugged, face justice in every jurisdiction you've corrupted. I hear some of those countries still have very medieval approaches to treason. Chen made one last attempt at authority. You don't have the right. We maintained order, controlled the flow of research, prevented what? Sarah's voice could have frozen flame. Prevented justice, prevented accountability, prevented the truth about your crimes from coming to light? Ramirez reported more incoming data. Agent, research agencies worldwide are coordinating response. They're moving to secure exposed council facilities, arrest identified operatives. You've destroyed decades of careful balance, Reeves protested weakly. The chaos when these secrets emerge, the balance you maintain through murder, Sarah cut him off, through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal scientists for profit. She moved closer, letting them see the ghosts that had haunted criminal nightmares. That balance deserved to be destroyed. The council members watched their carefully constructed world collapse in real time. Every safeguard they'd created, every protocol they'd established, every fail-safe they'd planned, all of it turned against them by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate. "Sir!" Ramirez called out, checking tactical feeds. International task force units are on final approach. Multiple agencies coordinating custody protocols. Sarah nodded, watching the council leaders wrestle with their new reality. Time to face real justice, gentlemen. Not the shadow games you're used to playing, but actual accountability for your crimes. Through the tactical channels that remained active, they could hear the coordinated response of research agencies worldwide. Facilities that had been manipulated and corrupted for decades were now working together to dismantle the Council's shadow. Empire, one last chance, Sarah told them quietly. Start talking now. Tell us everything about your operations, and maybe you survive what's coming. And the wise, she smiled coldly. Well, I hear some of your former assets are very interested in having private conversations about past operations. The council members' faces showed real fear now. They knew exactly what happened to exposed manipulators. In the research world, how quickly loyalty turned to vengeance when decades of corruption were revealed. La Sombra's hunt is almost over, Sarah announced, watching international units approach the ranch. The only question is whether you face justice through official channels or... She let the threat hang in the air. The Shadow Empire was falling, and its architects were about to discover why some predators should never be provoked. The international task force arrived with precision that impressed even Sarah. Representatives from a dozen research agencies, each with personal reasons to want the council brought to justice, each with scores to settle for murdered scientists and compromised programs. Quite a reunion, Sarah observed, as familiar faces emerged from tactical vehicles. Survivors from Ghost Protocol, Juarez, every operation where the council had tried to eliminate witnesses. "Agent," Ramirez monitored the approaching teams. "I'm counting operators from CDC, WHO, multiple agencies coordinating custody protocols." "Of course," Sarah smiled coldly at the council members. "You didn't just corrupt American research, you manipulated every major agency. Now they all want their pound of flesh." Chen watched the approaching operators with growing dread. "You don't understand what you're unleashing. The secrets we protected, the balance we maintained." "Amazing how quickly your diplomatic tone vanishes when real justice approaches," Sarah cut him off. The game was over. The shadow had won, and the light was about to shine on some very dark places. The International Task Force entered with coordinated precision. Sarah recognized many of the operators, survivors like her, ones who'd faced council cleanup teams and lived to fight back. "Dr. Torres," she greeted the WHO team leader, "still have that scar from Ghost Protocol?" "Among others," Torres replied, her voice carrying cold authority. "Been waiting a long time for this, Shadow." The council members watched their worst nightmare unfold as operators from multiple agencies approached. Men and women they'd tried to eliminate now returned with official sanction and righteous purpose. "Your choice is simple," Sarah told them. "Cooperate fully with every agency here, reveal everything about your operations, and maybe you face justice in civilized jurisdictions. Resist," she nodded to the assembled operators. "Well, I hear some countries still have very medieval approaches to dealing with traitors." Ramirez monitored the expanding global response. "Agent, we're getting reports worldwide. Council facilities being secured, sleeper agents arrested, hidden accounts frozen. The shadows are burning away." "Everything you built," Sarah explained, to the defeated council members. "Everything you killed to protect, everything you manipulated, all of it exposed to the light." Through secure channels, research agencies coordinated the dismantling of the Council's shadow empire. Decades of careful manipulation and hidden control crumbling in real time. "You've destroyed everything," Volkov protested weakly. "The careful balance of power, the balance you maintained through corruption." Torres's voice carried years of controlled anger, through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal scientists for profit. Sarah watched the international teams prepare to take custody. Each agency had its own charges to file, its own justice to pursue. The council leaders would face accountability in multiple jurisdictions. "Sir," Ramirez called out, checking tactical feeds. "More council facilities going. Dark worldwide, but our embedded systems are tracking everything. Their entire shadow network is exposed." "Show them," Sarah ordered. The tactical screens displayed the cascade of revelations. Hidden operations exposed, secret facilities revealed, decades of carefully concealed communications laid bare for every research agency to examine. "You see," Sarah told the council members, "we didn't just study your networks, we rebuilt them. Every failsafe, every protocol, every emergency system, we turned them all into backdoors." Chen's face showed pure hatred now. "You have no idea what you've done. The chaos when these secrets emerge." "Actually, I do." Sarah smiled coldly. "I understand exactly what happens when decades of corruption are exposed, when compromised scientists realize they've been manipulated, when professional operators discover they've been working for criminals." The international teams moved with practiced efficiency, securing the council members for transport. Each operator carried personal motivation. Colleagues lost to council. Clean-up operations. Careers destroyed by their manipulation. Lives shattered by their corruption. La Sombra's hunt is ending, Sarah announced, watching justice approach. But your trials are just beginning. Every agency here has charges to file. Every service has scores to settle. Through the command post windows, they could see more tactical teams arriving. The ranch had become a focal point of international accountability, where decades of shadow manipulation finally faced the light. Agent Ramirez reported, monitoring global communications. Research agencies worldwide are coordinating response, hidden council operations being exposed on every continent. Sarah nodded, watching the architects of so much corruption face real consequences. Prepare them for transport. Each agency gets their chance at justice. Each service gets answers about their lost operators. The council members' carefully constructed world was collapsing completely. Their shadow empire exposed, their manipulation revealed, their power stripped away by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate. La Sombra's mission was reaching its end, but the impact would echo through research agencies worldwide as decades of corruption finally faced the light of justice. Sunrise painted Texas's hills gold as Sarah stood on the ranch's porch, watching. The international teams prepare for transport. The council members were being separated, each senior leader headed to a different jurisdiction to face justice for specific crimes. Final count? She asked. 312 council facilities exposed worldwide, Ramirez reported, checking his tablet. Over 2,000 compromised agents identified, countless operations revealed. And that's just the beginning. Rodriguez added, joining them. Research agencies worldwide are still digging through the evidence, finding connections we never imagined. Sarah nodded, watching Chen being loaded into an armored transport. They built their power on shadows, used them to hide their manipulation, their crimes, their control over global research. But shadows work both ways. Ramirez understood. Sometimes they hide the hunters, not just the hunted. Torres approached from her WHO tactical team. Shadow, Ghost Protocol facility is secure. Found evidence of everything. The cleanup operations, the eliminated scientists, the classified sales. Send copies to every agency, Sarah ordered. Let them all see how deep the corruption went, how many of their people were sacrificed for council profits. Through the morning mist, more tactical vehicles arrived, each international team preparing to transport their prisoners, their evidence, their piece of the dismantled Shadow Empire. "Sir," Ramirez called out, monitoring global communications. "We're getting updates from multiple agencies. Council sleeper agents being arrested, hidden accounts frozen, black operations exposed." "The dominoes are falling," Rodriguez observed. "Every corrupt official, every compromised scientist, every hidden operation, all of it coming to light." Sarah watched Reeves being transferred to CDC custody. The former council member's diplomatic facade crumbled completely, replaced by the fear of someone facing real consequences. "You know what happens next," Sarah told him quietly. "Every agency you manipulated, every service you corrupted, they all want answers about their lost scientists, their compromised research, their betrayed trust. You've destroyed everything," Reeves protested weakly. "Decades of careful balance. The balance you maintained through murder." Torres's voice carried controlled fury. "Through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal scientists for profit." Around them, The international teams continued their precise work, each operator carrying personal motivation, colleagues lost to council cleanup operations, careers destroyed by their manipulation, lives shattered by their corruption. "Agent," Ramirez reported, checking tactical feeds. "More council facilities being secured worldwide, research agencies coordinating response on every continent." Sarah nodded, watching Volkov being prepared for transport to a European research agency. "Send everything to the International Task Force. Every piece of evidence, every exposed connection, every revealed operation. The ripples are still spreading," Rodriguez noted. "This goes deeper than anyone imagined. Military contracts, political influence, international security protocols." "They didn't just corrupt research agencies," Sarah explained. "They corrupted the entire system, used their shadows to manipulate global security for profit. Through secure channels, they could hear the coordinated response continuing worldwide, decades of careful manipulation crumbling as evidence exposed the true scope of council operations." "Sir," Ramirez called out, monitoring communications, "we're getting requests from multiple agencies. They all want to debrief you, understand how you exposed the council's network." "Tell them the truth," Sarah smiled coldly. "Tell them about shadows, about hunters who learned to wait, about ghosts who never forgot." Torres checked her tactical gear, preparing to escort her prisoners. 15 years, Shadow. 15 years you hunted them, built your network, prepared for this moment. They gave me time." Sarah watched Chen's transport prepare to depart. "After Juarez, after they tried to eliminate me, they thought I was finished, just another loose end tied up. Instead, you became something else," Ramirez understood, "something that hunted them from inside their own shadows." The morning sun climbed higher as the international teams finished their preparations. Each agency had its own prisoners to transport, its own evidence to process, its own justice to pursue. "The Council's reign is over," Rodriguez announced, watching the vehicles depart. "Their shadow empire exposed, their manipulation revealed, their power broken." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained watchful. "The immediate threat is contained, but the ripples will continue. More corruption will be exposed, more conspiracies revealed, more shadows burned away." "And La Sombra?" Torres asked quietly. "What happens to the hunter when the prey is caught?" "There are always more shadows," Sarah replied. "Always more. Corruption to expose, always more justice to pursue." Ramirez monitored the departing transports on tactical feeds. Each prisoner headed to a different jurisdiction. Each agency gets their chance at justice. As it should be. Sarah watched the vehicles disappear into the morning light. Let them face accountability in every nation they corrupted. Let them answer for every scientist they sacrificed, every operation they compromised, every life they destroyed. The ranch that had seen the council's final fall now stood quiet in the Texas morning, but its impact would echo through research agencies worldwide as decades of corruption finally faced the light of justice. "Sir!" Ramirez reported one final update. "All council prisoners secure, all evidence transmitted, all agencies coordinating response." Sarah nodded, watching the last transport vanish into the distance. La Sombra's hunt is finished, but the work continues. There are always more shadows to burn away, always more justice to pursue. The morning sun painted the hills gold as the international teams departed, each carrying a piece of the dismantled shadow empire, each pursuing their own justice for years of corruption and betrayal. La Sombra's mission was complete. But its impact would continue, echoing through research agencies worldwide, as decades of manipulation finally faced the consequences of their actions. "Time to go home," Sarah told her team. "Back to the ranch, back to the quiet life." But they all knew the truth. For people like them, survivors, hunters, ghosts, the work was never really finished. There would always be more shadows to burn, away, always more justice to pursue. La Sombra might return to its ranch, but it would always be watching, always ready to hunt again if darkness threatened to rise. Because sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one that strikes first. Sometimes it's the shadow that waits, that watches, that never forgets. And sometimes justice wears a ghost's smile. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.